Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to talk about something you use every single day, but probably never think about: elliptic curve cryptography. It's kind of the unsung hero that's secretly securing huge chunks of our digital lives. So, let me ask you a question that really gets to the core of this. How is it possible that a tiny little chip in your credit card is actually more secure than a whole web server was, say, 20 years ago? I mean, think about that. How does that even work? Well, the answer is just it's beautiful math. All right, section 1, cryptography's big problem. And it really was a big problem, all about giant keys. To get why elliptic curves were such a game changer, we have to look at what came before and the massive headache it was causing. It was really a problem of scale. You see, the early systems that secured the internet, stuff like RSA, they were absolutely revolutionary. Their security came from a really clever idea. It's super hard for computers to factor gigantic numbers. So the bigger the numbers you use for your keys, the safer you are. But, and this is a big but, that security came at a huge cost. Those keys had to be massive, and crunching those numbers took a ton of processing power. And that's where the problem really hits home today. Think about all the little gadgets in our lives. We're talking smartphones, those little smart cards, even wireless medical devices, and all those tiny sensors that make up the Internet of Things. These things just don't have the juice, you know? They don't have the battery or the raw power to handle these enormous keys. Something had to give. We needed a totally new way of thinking about this. So, on to the solution. The elliptic curve solution. Elegant math to the rescue. This whole mess, it absolutely demanded something new, something way more efficient. And the answer, believe it or not, came from this really cool, kind of abstract corner of mathematics. Okay, let's define our term here: elliptic curve. Now, first things first, let's get one thing straight. The name is super misleading. It has absolutely nothing to do with an ellipse, you know, that oval shape. An elliptic curve is a very specific thing defined by that equation you see there. And when you graph it, you get these really cool, kind of weird symmetrical shapes. But the real magic isn't the shape, it's all about the amazing properties of the points that sit right on that curve. So what is this magic? Well, it all boils down to a really unique way of adding 2 points together. I'm using air quotes here for adding because it's not like regular addition. You can literally take any 2 points on this curve, do a little geometric trick, and bam, you get a third, brand new point that's also on the curve. Every single time. This one simple operation is the secret sauce for the whole thing. And here's how that trick works. It's actually really visual and surprisingly simple. You just pick 2 points on the curve, let's call them P and Q. Then you draw a straight line right through them. That line is going to hit the curve at a third spot, right? We'll call that point R. Now for the last step, you just flip that point R across the horizontal axis, and that new spot, that's your answer. That's P plus Q. It's predictable, it's simple, and it works every time. Okay, so this brings us to the core security concept, the trapdoor function. This whole point addition thing creates what's basically a mathematical one-way street. It's like this. Imagine I give you a starting point. We'll call it G, and I say, hey, add this point to itself 1,000 times. Well, that's pretty easy for a computer to do. It just chugs along and gives you the final point. But what if I did it the other way around? What if I gave you the starting point G and the final point, and then asked you, so how many times did I add it to itself to get here? Figuring out that number, that K, is ridiculously computationally impossible. You can't go backwards. That is the trapdoor. That's the whole secret. Okay, section 3. Smaller keys, bigger security. This is the payoff. So we have this really cool mathematical one-way street. What does that actually mean for us in the real world? Well, it all comes down to the single biggest advantage of ECC. It's just so darn efficient. And here's why that matters so much. That hard problem we just talked about, the one where you can't go backwards, it's just so much harder for computers to solve than the problem that old systems like RSA used. We're talking orders of magnitude harder. And because of that, you get the exact same level of security, but with keys that are dramatically smaller. It's like getting Fort Knox security for the price of a bike lock. All the protection, none of the heavy lifting. I mean, just look at this chart. It really puts it into perspective. To get what we'd call a really secure connection using RSA, you need a key that's 3,072 bits long. That's huge. Now look at ECC. To get the exact same level of security, you only need a 256-bit key. That's not just a little smaller, that is a massive difference. And that right there is the answer to our first question. That's how a tiny chip can be so powerful. Section 4, ECC is everywhere. And I mean everywhere. Because it's so incredibly efficient, ECC has become this invisible workhorse, the hidden engine that's constantly securing your digital life, and most of the time, you have no idea it's even happening. So where is it? Well, you see that little padlock in your web browser? Chances are that's ECC working behind the scenes. Cryptocurrencies? Yep, Bitcoin and many others rely on it to secure transactions. It's what verifies that the software you're downloading is legit through digital signatures. It's even in the technology that protects movies and music from being copied illegally. And you can bet that governments are using it to protect their most sensitive communications. It's truly all over the place. But here's the thing. You can have the most beautiful, unbreakable math in the world, but it's not enough. You have to actually use it correctly. And that brings us to a really famous cautionary tale, the time the PlayStation 3 got hacked. Here's what happened. The security on the PS3 was broken, but it wasn't because the math failed. It was a human mistake, a really bad one. Basically, to create a secure digital signature, you need a secret number that's truly random and only used once. Well, the developers messed up. They used the same random number over and over again. Hackers noticed this, and by comparing just two different files signed with that same number, they were able to do the math and figure out the console's master secret key. The whole system came crashing down. The cryptography was sound, the implementation was a disaster. Now, as powerful as ECC is, nothing lasts forever. And today, there are some serious cracks appearing in the curve. Let's talk about the controversies and the future threats that could knock ECC off its throne. So ECC is kind of fighting a war on two fronts. First, you've got today's controversy, the NSA backdoor. A few years back, reports came out that the NSA might have pushed a specific standard for ECC that had a secret weakness, basically a backdoor that only they could use. That, as you can imagine, really shook people's trust. Then you've got tomorrow's threat, and this one is a biggie, the quantum threat. We're talking about a whole new kind of computer that could potentially break ECC wide open. You see, there's this thing called Shor's algorithm, and if you could run it on a big enough quantum computer, that impossible one-way street problem at the heart of ECC, it wouldn't be impossible anymore. The quantum computer could just solve it. Now, we're not there yet. We need a machine with something like 2,330 stable qubits, and we're a long way from that. But the threat is so real, so fundamental that the NSA itself has already said we need to start moving away from this. They're already working on finding the next generation of quantum-resistant security. So, there you have it. ECC powers our secure digital world. It's this elegant, efficient solution that really enabled everything from secure online banking to our smartphones. But as these powerful quantum computers get closer and closer to reality, you have to wonder, is its time running out? It's a technology at a crossroads, and right now, the race is on to figure out what comes next before it's too late.